Welcome back to the All Out Fighting YouTube channel and welcome to our shiny home here in Canary Wharf, just a stone's throw away from where we've watched the grand arrivals this evening for Chris Eubank Jr. against Conor Benn. I'm Ned Keating, joined once again by Martin Domin. And Martin, what we're going to do here is grand arrivals, I suppose, the name always sets it up to be something more than it is, and you can't really read too much into it. But that isn't to say to stop watching. What we're going to do is we're going to try and set the scene then for the week ahead and what we can expect from the fighters as well. Because this is, and the first question, of course, is the fact that this is the biggest fight in both fighters' careers, would you say? What kind of, it's not just fighting for family name and family honour, but what could come from winning this fight is huge for both of them.
It is undoubtedly the biggest fight of each of their careers. You can't escape the family aspect to it, but the family aspect was there almost 3 years ago in 2022 when they were supposed to fight for the first time. So that's, it's kind of been built upon because Chris Eubank Sr. is very much against this fight. I think he was against it the first time round, but this time he's not even pretending to be supporting it. But also, of course, we have 2.5 years since the failed drugs test, which you won't hear mentioned particularly often this week on the broadcasts or in interviews because that's been put to one side. But for Chris Eubank Jr., that is a big part of it. He sees himself, I think, as judge, jury and executioner. He doesn't care what's been decided by, bodies who have cleared Conor Benn. He wants to go in there and make sure that, in his eyes, Conor Benn's career is over after the final bell.
Yeah, the saying goes, time is a great healer, but you feel for Chris Eubank Jr. time, if anything, has made the hatred that he feels or whatever emotions he feels towards Conor Benn grow stronger. And you kind of look at that and how he's kind of held himself in the weeks leading up to this fight as well, and how he spoke in the grand arrivals as well. Both fighters were invited on stage and answered a few questions as well, but how he spoke was very businesslike. And this is the feeling I'm getting from Chris Eubank Jr. Going into fight week is that everything we're going to see from him is going to be very business. I'm here to get a job done, and I'll get that done Saturday night. And I'm sure he'd love to get it done very, very quickly, and he may well do. But for him, the outcome is the be all and end all. It's not perhaps maybe the journey and how he gets there. Just getting that win is all that matters to him.
It is, and he is very deliberate with everything he says. Everything is considered, which you can't often say about boxers specifically, sports people in general perhaps. Boxing wouldn't be boxing without people saying the wrong thing at the wrong time or doing the wrong thing at the wrong time. But everything Chris Eubank does, whether it's just talking or whether it's smashing eggs into faces, he's planned it, and it normally goes as he planned it. Emotion will be a big thing, and he looks and sounds very calm, very controlled. I don't think it's an act. Conor Benn up until now has struggled, I think, to deal with that and to have a rebuttal to it. There wasn't so much of that at the grand arrival. I'll have to wait till the press conference until they can actually go back and forth and we see whether Conor Benn's got a different attitude this time. But if the emotions will get the better of either of them, it will be Conor Benn. And to answer your question, Chris Eubank Jr. has to win this fight. He has promised a lot for a long time. A lot of that is because of his dad, but he hasn't fulfilled what he wants to do. He hasn't become world champion. And if he loses to Conor Benn, a man who's coming up in weight, he probably never will be world champion.
It's interesting that you kept mentioning there about Conor Benn being more emotional of the two as well, because one word that he kept using when he was quizzed on stage at the grand arrivals was, this is personal. Every single question he was asked, he seemed to bring it back to that being the first answer, that whoever I fought, it's always personal, but this one is a bit more personal. And again, it 100% proves what you said there, that he's the more emotional one. Is that something that could perhaps then be a weakness come Saturday night, that he's not able to distract himself or remove himself from that emotion? And he does something you said there as well about, kind of sometimes fighters do make mistakes and can slip and everything. And maybe if you are going into this fight too emotional, that kind of opens itself up. That whereas you've got the businessman like Chris Eubank Jr., who's able to kind of be very smooth and calm and comfortable with everything.
I think it's definitely a possibility. And Chris Eubank alluded to how he sees the fight going and saying that he is the matador and Conor Benn is the bull. And, connotations of that, red rag to a bull, etc. That is probably how he sees that going. And I think it's possible. If Conor Benn starts it's not just a case of starting fast. I'm sure he'll want to do that, but starts recklessly, then it could be a bad night and an early night for him. But then again, yes, it's the biggest stage of his career, but he said this week, before his debut on an anti-Joshua undercard, he was scared that night, and nothing will be as scary as that. So maybe in his head, he thinks he will be fine. And once he gets in there, there is no talking. It doesn't become. I mean, it's a battle of educations, if you like, of their fists, but not a battle of the educations of their mind, which is what it will be this week.
We of course saw it end with a face-off, the first of many face-offs that we're going to see this week as well. But it felt. In that one, it feels like there's the fireworks that we're going to be waiting for are going to come perhaps later in the week when it comes to face-offs. Of course, we all know what happened back in February in that infamous first face-off that they had at the press conference and the eggs that were involved. But this one, it kind of almost feels like when you're watching a film and you kind of have the first act and it's kind of the foreshadowing will come later. We might see the big moment come later on in the week, but this one kind of felt like, okay, we'll show you what we've got. Both held each other's gaze for a long time. They had to be broken up. Where we were sat, we had the TV production crew behind us, and we could hear them saying, "Oh, it's the security, sorry, wasn't it? Security guards controlling and saying, right, okay, now turn into the camera." We could hear everything going on in the mics, but that was it. These boys just wanted to. There was no hijinks, no shenanigans, no pranks or anything this time. They just wanted to lock eyes, lock their gaze, and make sure that each one knew that this was the start of a huge few days for them.
At least we got a face-off. Actually, these grand arrivals are more often than not boring, but they did face off all of the fighters with their opponents, and that helped because I think they did face off on the Piers Morgan show, but this was the first official face-off, if you like, as you said, since the egg incident. They were kept, a couple of metres apart, which I hope is not the case all week. We should have at least 2 more face-offs this week. I hope they can convince them to stand close together and not kick off. The thing is, once you smash an egg into someone's face, it's difficult to better that, right? And it was a great thing. It was the thought behind it was clever.
It helped sell the fight, though. It has helped sell the fight.
Yeah, it has. But what does he do now? Because you can't, you definitely can't punch each other. You can't, you're going to get fined. I just wonder if Chris Eubank Jr. is finished with that side of things, and can Conor Benn really answer the egg with anything of his own? I'm not sure, but I hope we get more face-offs. I hope we get a proper face-to-face face-off on Friday after the weigh-in. But it would be a shock, as you say, if the week is a quiet one.
Of course, let us know in the comments as well. Let us know how Chris Eubank Jr. may be able to top the egg prank during this week. And you never know, we might be able to see that come a reality at some point. Martin, I'm just going to end this video, though, and something that we're going to kind of revisit as the week goes on. And look, Grand Arrivals, you can't really read too much into it. There's not really much said. It's more procedure more than anything else. It's very business-like often. The fact, as you said there, that we've got a face-off as a welcome relief, actually, compared to previous Grand Arrivals. But has anything changed in your head? I don't want your prediction yet at this point. We'll save that for later in the week. We'll be like a good, kind of film. We'll save that for the last act. But in terms of what you've seen today, has anything changed? I mean, I think it's going to be a short answer on this one. But has it? I mean, to be fair, then has it? If it hasn't changed it, has it reassured you in your belief going into this week as to who you thought might come out on top, or nothing at all?
I'd love to say something had. Or this had triggered something, but no, I don't think so. I think there was nothing about today that was going to get either of them worked up. I don't think anything will get Chris Eubank Jr. worked up, and there was nothing even that could get Conor Benn in any sort of state, because there was no back and forth. I think if the only thing that would have surprised me was if Chris Eubank Sr. had turned up, and then that would have been a story. He wasn't there. Nigel Benn, front row, with other members of the family. But no, I think today the Grand Arrivals is very much a procedure, as you said. They tick a box, they come, they go home, done. We've got the public workouts next. Again, they probably will be kept apart, probably won't do very much, and again, we probably won't get too much insight. But as you say, it's building up. Thursday, press conference, proper face-off, hopefully, and just a chance for both guys to go back and forth, which I think is when we might get a first sign of how they're feeling 48 hours out.
Of course, and it's definitely going to build towards that crescendo on Saturday night at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium as well. Throughout the week, you're going to see plenty of myself and Martin in the studio on location as well, and plenty of other interviews as we get them throughout Fight Week as well. So be sure to keep coming back to the channel. Be sure to subscribe to it as well to stay up to date with all the latest analysis and those interviews as well from everything to do with Chris Eubank Jr. against Conor Benn ahead of Fight Night on Saturday. But all that's left for me to say is goodbye.